Our goal is only to support the prospects and the customers' goals, their desires. Our job is to facilitate the outcome that they want, not what we want. So what I would say with that is that find the things that interest them. Don't talk about your thing.
Right.
Go and spend 10 hours today, 8 hours today, 5 hours today, figuring out what your audience are interested in from an entertainment perspective, from a humor perspective, from a perspective of researching and improving their life in the way that they want. Find out what they're listening to, find out what they're consuming, and go and start to create some content about that thing.
I'm Shayna. I love dogs, I trip a lot, and I happen to have a knack for making pretty sweet videos for businesses. But the more videos we made, the more questions I got about how video and other content can be leveraged to make a bigger impact in their marketing. I mean, 44% of marketers say that producing content is their biggest challenge, yet content marketing is 62% less expensive than outbound and produces 3 times more leads. Now, I know a lot, but I certainly don't know it all, so I made it my mission to talk with content kings, queens, and bosses to learn as much as I could about crushing content marketing, and I'm taking you along with me. Welcome to the Content Coalition.
All right, so we've got Mark Asquith with podcast websites today, and he's going to drop some knowledge about how an awesome website can really help your presence, help your business. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm kind of just an evergreen geek. I just like building. Yeah, we all are. I just kind of like building things. I was once an agency owner. I did that for a decade. I owned a brand and digital agency. Now I focus on software for podcasters. So I run podcast websites, which is a range of products to help podcasters grow. We started as just podcast websites as a software as a service platform, but we are rolling out much more software now. So it's a true software startup, which I didn't realize when we started this thing that we were going to go down that route. So that's kind of been interesting. And then I also speak at events like this. I also sort of run my own personal brand, Excellence Expected, which is teaching people how we're building podcast websites. So we're teaching people how they can do something else if they want to do something else. They don't have to be stuck in the business that they've always been in. That's what I did, got out of the business that I was a little bit bored of. So I teach people how to do that as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I'm a busy geek.
It sounds like it, right? So what made you dive into websites for podcasts specifically out of agency? Was it straight out of agency, or how did that work?
That's a good question. So the story goes, there's actually 2 sides to this story. There's number 1, the podcasting side, and number 2, the agency, the web side of things. So I got into podcasting. I'm a big DC Comics geek, like a huge DC Comics geek.
I've done so many Comic-Cons.
I love it. Honestly, it's amazing. So I'm a big DC fan. I started doing a podcast and a blog called 2 Shots to the Head, I think back in 2013. Actually.
Yeah.
So that got me into podcasting, got me into blogging. And then I started my own business show, Excellence Expected, which is now a daily show. Which is 7 minutes a day. It's called the 7 Minute Mentor under my brand. And when I launched that show, I was running the agency at the time. So we were working on brand work, we were working on digital work, web platforms. And suddenly I had to marry these 2 worlds together. I had to do the podcast world and build that into my own life. But I realized that I was just really lucky to know digital. I knew web. I knew how to do these things that other podcasters didn't know how to do, but they needed. So people needed to integrate with the website. They wanted to know how to grow a podcast using digital marketing. So I brought the 2 worlds together, and we created a podcast website purely as an experiment, purely as a side hustle, a bit of a, will this thing fly? Like, do people need this thing? And they did, and they do. And around the same time, I was getting a little bit bored of the agency life. I was certainly got problems with the idea of always having to pitch for work.
Oh,
and, you know, it's a nightmare, isn't
it?
I
know,
it's
never ending.
Today's day and age, you know, you shouldn't have to prove as much as you've got to prove to get projects, you know. Because we're all putting content out, we're all doing fantastic things like this. People should be doing their research. People should be doing their due diligence on us. And by the time we get to the meeting, get to the first session, to the pitch, it should be as much as interviewing them, you know?
Right.
And I got really disgruntled and disenchanted with that entire thing.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to do this, which morphed into the software company it is today. So that's how I got into it, through 1, my own podcast, and 2, being a little bit bored of agency life, really.
And sick of pitching people.
Oh,
sick of selling. Oh, selling is like the bane of my existence.
Awful.
I hate it.
So dull.
Oh, man. So then, give me kind of the breakdown of what exactly podcast websites does, like all the back end stuff. Why is it awesome?
Yeah, so there's 2 new products coming out this year which I can't say anything about because they are super massive top secret.
Super massive top secret.
Super massive top secret. It's like top secret and then super, and then massive, and then super massive.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's way above. Yeah, it's above classified. So we've got 2 projects launching. If anyone's at Podcast Movement this year, we'll be launching one of those there. Cool. So the product as is an all-in-one WordPress as a service platform. So we take WordPress and we add a massive SaaS layer to it, software as a service layer to it. We add 24/7 support. We add media hosting, download stats. It's a complete podcast platform in a box, really. And we provide free design because we brought some of the designers in from the agency. And we just help podcasters. We help them get over the hurdles that stop them podcasting. So literally everything that you would need, as long as you can record your show, we've got everything else done for you. So it works really well for people. And we work with a lot of beginners who genuinely wouldn't be able to podcast because they wouldn't have the time or the willingness to learn this other stuff. So that's what we do.
That's awesome. It becomes overwhelming for sure. Like when I talk to people they're like, we know I need to do this, but all of the steps to get into it, like the web design, the gear, the whole deal, the stats, like how do I monetize, all this stuff, it's crazy. So the fact that you guys take a lot of that out of it. And when I talked to Kieran a couple weeks ago, I loved that you guys offer the design part too. Because a lot of times they're going to agencies or they're having like their buddy do it or whatever.
Or got a $5.
Yeah, right? And it ultimately ends up being way more expensive too, which is crazy. And now they're actually on a platform that works. Why is a website for your podcast important?
So, and again, another really good question. Now, obviously so many people who've got the willingness and the desire to integrate podcasts into their own site can do that, but so many people don't. So many people start a podcast because they love doing it. Like I started a DC Comics show. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to turn into anything. I didn't know what was going to happen. And what very often occurs is that people start with the thing that they love. So they'll build a podcast, they put their voice out there, but then something happens. People like it. And they say, where can I get more information? What can I do? How can I get involved? How can I donate to the show? Or maybe sponsors come along and said, you know what, you've got such a tight niche audience. I want to give you some money to access that audience. And podcasters, it's a great way to monetize. But they don't have a platform. So they've got this amazing content.
Yeah.
Now the big thing that people forget, and this is part of the reason that we do the free design, is that the second you press record, the second you edit it, the second you press publish, you actually become a brand. Of course you do.
Yeah,
you're a media company. You are completely a brand.
It's powerful.
It really is.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we talked about Comic Cons, and back in the day when I did 2 Shots to the Head, Gaz and I, the guy that run it with me, we get free passes to London Comic Con and Dublin Comic Con as the media. We're like, what? What's that? Really? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
That seems fine.
I'll take that.
Yeah. We'll go meet Doctor Who. That's all good. But people don't realise that, and people often end up on the back foot. So they'll get a wonderful sponsorship opportunity, or they'll get a fantastic speaking opportunity, and the rug is pulled out from underneath them because their brand just does not exist. That's why we offer the free design. We take away all the stoppers from becoming a brand, and that's what we're really trying to achieve with people. Because I truly think that podcasting, the middle people in podcasting, I'll explain that. The middle people, so not the people that are just starting, but also not the NPRs, not the people with 10, 15,000 and above, way above downloads per episode. The people in between that have got 500 downloads per show, they are the future of podcasting. Because they're the indies, they're the guys who can attract really tight brand sponsorships. And to have that sabotage because no one ever told you needed this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's a really bad way to kind of sabotage a brand and a business before it's got going. So that's why we do what we do, and that's why it's so important to have a platform, to have a hub, to have your own visual tone, your own visual style, everything that you do for a business. You need for a podcast.
So aside from just like the brand elements and making sure that that's all present and searchable and findable, right? How is a website helpful in like the forward movement, like the monetization, not even just that, but like lead capture and taking them through funnels and things like that?
It's hugely vital. Hugely vital. I mean, podcasters, channel shifting someone from listening to this thing passively into taking some action. Is a problem that I'm really passionate about solving. It's something that I think is really interesting. Well, it's going to be so much fun trying to solve that thing.
Good luck.
Honestly, fun. I'm using that term loosely. No, it will be. It really gets me going. I love it.
Sure.
But a website is the focal point. It's the thing that people understand already. You're not changing behaviours. You're not telling people to go and do anything that they're not already doing on other websites elsewhere. We're all on Amazon. We're all working on eBay. We're all on our other business websites. So with the podcast, it's vital because you need to take people from doing this passive thing, which is listening on a walk, or on a jog, or walking the dog, or training at the gym, to doing something.
Right.
And if you're sending them off to other places to do this, then you're not owning that platform.
Right.
You know, even regardless of the risk of things like Facebook changing its algorithms, like happened in January, and the things that we all risk on third-party platforms, like suddenly if Slack goes away, or if Facebook goes away, or Twitter,
right.
and you built your platform on there, you know, that's it. Your audience is gone. So
yeah.
guiding people through to a website and starting people in that funnel, whether it's through a lead magnet, whether it's through some kind of sponsorship, like I said, it's vital. But people, the problem is, people don't equate a podcast, this audio content, with the ability to do that.
Right.
They believe that podcasting's over here and it's entertainment.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's you can always channel shift people. People always want more.
Sure.
You know?
Especially people who are giving you that much of their time.
Yes.
You know, we're not talking like, oh, I got a 10-second view on Facebook. We're talking like 10, 15, 20, an hour sometimes. So, I mean, why wouldn't you take that person who's already giving you that and shifting them to something more and engaging, right?
Exactly, and you're completely right there insofar as people are spending so much time with you. But think about that in a I guess in a more personal way as well. They're spending time with you right in their ears.
Right.
So you're like, there's no more intimate a delivery method of content. You can't get content to anyone in a more intimate way.
Right.
It's directly piped in right next to the brain.
Yeah,
you know?
like closer to the, yeah, exactly, right all up in there.
Exactly.
And they're probably doing something hyper-personal too, like working out or walking the dog, or, you know, so I mean, you're really like in their life.
Yeah, you really are. And
it's powerful, it's cool.
You become you know, we see it so many times with podcasters, whether it's a niche podcast or a bit more of a broad entertainment show, but you see it so very often where people at conferences will say, oh, I recognize you. How do you recognize me? I heard your voice. I recognize your voice. I listen to your podcast.
Right.
You know, you do get that.
Yeah.
And especially at podcasting conferences, which is, you know, to start with, it freaks you out a little bit.
Yeah,
you're like,
right.
oh, wait a second. But then you realize that it's not weird. It's not anything but just a friendship.
Yeah.
You know, and you end up building a relationship with these people. And it's, if you think about business, you know, equate this back to business and equate this to kind of marketers and equate this to people who are trying to build some kind of revenue through different channels.
Yeah.
How many other channels give you that opportunity to build a friendship?
Right.
There is no better way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Were you freaked out? Did you get some like recognition? Were you like, I was just doing this for fun because I love comics?
That's exactly it. So it didn't happen so much with the Two Shots podcast. But,
okay.
So yeah, I mean, that's weird. You know, we comic nerds are just all into our own things. But certainly with the 7 Minute Mentor, which is a daily show now, and by being so present at podcasting conferences and conferences like this, with podcast websites as well, it is weird because you hear people say, well, I've listened to your show, and they've never engaged, they've maybe never done anything, they're just lurking and enjoying, and you're
lurking.
Okay, I love
you
that.
Make it sound so.
Honestly, people do.
But that is what
they do, and they do it in Facebook groups as well. They'll go in, they'll lurk, they'll consume, but they'll not contribute. And,
yeah, right.
You know, and that's you've got to guide people through that process.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So with all the things you were talking about on taking them through funnels and lead gen and stuff like that, will podcast websites give you the ability to do that? Or how does that, so is that like integration? Is it kind of just come with the story, or what's the deal?
Yeah, again, good question. So two sides again to that answer. So number one, the technology. We've got landing pages built in, unlimited landing pages, so you can create as much of the front end of the funnel as you want. On the back end, we integrate with everyone from Infusionsoft to Aweber to MailChimp, to any of the CRM or the email marketing providers. So we provide that entire process. You just need the CRM. You just need Aweber, for example. So it works really, really well. Now, the second part of that we do, we've got something called the Podcast Growth Academy, which is allowing people to learn the skills that no one tells you need to be a successful podcaster.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is, when you enter podcasting, no one teaches you that you need to understand the basics of SEO.
Right.
Or how to create a content marketing plan, or how to start a funnel. So we actually mentor people through the community. We do workshops. We've got a live mastermind actually today. Ramona, our community manager, is running that today.
Yeah.
So we do live masterminds. We do office hours every week, and it's all part of the podcast website's membership. It's all together. So yeah, we do the technical stuff, but we also do the soft stuff. You know, the things that no one tells you need.
Like what?
Like I said,
just the SEO.
Yeah, the SEO.
At the beginning.
All of the skill, like things like we're learning here at Traffic and Conversion. Things like how to start testing your email list.
Yeah.
Things like how to be a better interviewer.
Sure.
How to tell a story. How to become a storyteller. with your audio, how to craft a narrative. No one teaches you that.
Right.
So, and they're important skills, I think.
I feel like that's one of the things that I hear the most that people are afraid of starting, because they're like, I would be a horrible host. I'm like, no, everybody sucks at the beginning. You know what I mean? You're going to go back and listen to episodes 1 through 10 and be like, can I just erase those from the universe? And you can. But I mean, you're not going to start being the greatest thing that's ever been on media, you know?
And that's a really good point, actually. The idea of podcasting, actually, as much as anything, is actually personal development.
Yeah.
You will develop as a speaker.
For sure.
You'll become more articulate. You'll become more confident. You'll become more, if you're an introvert. I'm a massive introvert. And everyone's surprised at that, because I'm at these events and I'm speaking and I'm podcast every day. But I am. I like nothing better than being laid on my bed watching Netflix. You know, it's amazing.
I'm with you on that one.
But it will improve every aspect of your communication skills, just sitting there and talking effectively to no one. If you're a solo show, you're talking to a microphone. You're talking to an avatar that you've created. And if you're interviewing, let's be honest, you're probably not going to be talking that much.
Right.
Because the interviewee wants the limelight. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
So it's a really great way of just, I guess, starting some personal development and going in places and directions that you never thought you'd go in. I find that a lot of people think that with podcasting. I didn't expect I'd end up here because of my podcast. That's a common thing.
For sure. What podcast are you listening to right now?
Do you know, I'm a bit funny with podcasts. I kind of, so my brain gets a little full. So I listen to the normal business-y shows, everything from Stacking Benjamins to Youpreneur FM with Chris. And listen to my show, or listen to my own show just to get that one download. But no, all joking aside, I actually listen to more entertainment podcasts at the minute.
Nice.
So because the brain gets so full of business stuff,
right?
So it's my little bit of solitude.
Sure.
So I listen to Fat Man on Batman by Kevin Smith. I love that guy.
Right, he's amazing, right?
Yeah, he's a legend. I don't know if you're at Podcast Movement in Fort Worth, but I met him.
Oh, really?
He was speaking at Podcast Movement. I was like, wait a second. This guy got me into podcasting. Now I've got a business that employs people in podcasting, and he writes the Flash and Green Arrow, my favourite superheroes.
Yeah.
This is like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
So I managed to get 20 minutes chat with him.
Yes.
It was insane. I said hello to him.
Yeah.
And literally just said, great work on the Flash episode that he directed. And he just went full on Kevin Smith on me, and it was a barrage of awesomeness from him. I was like, this is insane. I'm loving this. But I wouldn't have got that without the podcast. So I listened to Kev. What else am I listening to at the minute? Law by Aaron Mankey.
Okay.
It's a wonderful show. That's a really nice storytelling show. And one that I'm excited about, which is not launched yet, is a London show called Your London Legacy.
Okay.
Which is telling the hidden stories of London's hidden personalities. So really cool.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So that's what I'm into at the minute.
I love it. Very cool. Okay, so one thing that we like to do is give some people who are listening something to do within 24 hours, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's all this great information, and eventually we need to do all of it. But what's one thing that, we'll do it in 2 different ways, that a current podcaster can do in the next 24 hours to help their podcast?
Great question. So I believe that the best thing that you can do in 24 hours if you're a current podcaster is to actually physically talk to your audience. Find 10 audience members that have got in touch with you and book phone calls with them. I'm talking an actual, legitimate, I will phone you, I will call you. Do that with 10 people and you'll be amazed what you learn about your show. You'll be amazed what you'll learn.
I love that. That's super cool. Okay, so then how about maybe a business or a marketing director or somebody who knows they should be podcasting but not really understanding how it's going to help their business? Mm-hmm. What's something that they can do?
So those guys are tricky.
Yeah, right? You worked with a bunch of them, so you know them very well. I work with them all the time, so I'm like, you're an anomaly.
Yeah, those guys are tricky. But what I would say is you've got to look to the outskirts, look to the fringes. And what I mean by that is that any business that's got a customer, any business that's got a prospect, our goal is only to support the prospects and the customers' goals, their desires. Our job is to facilitate the outcome that they want, not what we want. So what I would say with that is that find the things that interest them. Don't talk about your thing.
Right.
Go and spend 10 hours today, 8 hours today, 5 hours today, figuring out what your audience are interested in from an entertainment perspective, from a humor perspective, from a perspective of researching and improving their life in the way that they want. Find out what they're listening to, find out what they're consuming, and go and start to create some content about that thing. Not about your thing. Yeah. That's what businesses do. They're like, we're going to talk about our widget. No one cares about your widget, man.
Right.
No one cares about your widget. But find what those guys are into, what interests them, what are What are their goals? For example, if someone wants to travel more, and maybe you're a travel provider, maybe you're some kind of company that offers concierge services for travelers, or you are just a booking agent, whatever that is, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about, actually, here's the Discover in Australia podcast. Here's the Discover in New York or New Orleans podcast. Do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
I love it. Awesome. So if there are some people lurking and want to see you on social, where do they find you?
I'm Mr. Asquith on everything because Mark Asquith was taken, drat.
Have you contacted that guy and we're like, what is this, man?
He's an online marketer, so he's like, nah, that's my username.
Sorry, bro.
So yeah, that's pretty much the email that I got back. A few more swear words. No, that's not
right.
true.
A couple more letters,
Mark,
you're fine.
guy. But yeah, Mr. Asquith, which is MRASQUITH.
Awesome.
I had to remember that then.
Yeah, right? Very cool. Well, thank you so much
Pleasure,
for coming.
thank you.
I feel like we got so much information. I'm excited to actually start implementing that with ourselves. So
you are welcome,
cool.
and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, of course. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Content Coalition. Now, whether you're listening or watching, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel and to whatever platform you're listening to it on, because you're not going to want to miss out on the incredible things that I'm learning with these amazing content marketing pros. So make sure you subscribe, and we will talk to you next week.